Balbo Yawun. Anya Jimbalay Mami. Ya Jimbalay Nyawani. Jimbalang Jimbari. Minyaku. Jingi Walu. Nanyaneri Zak. Jingari Yogabe Jargon. Ya Jingari Manajali Jargon. So g'day guys, what I've just said to you all is good afternoon, my friends and family. Welcome, hello. How are you all? My name is Zach Fogarty from the local Yugambeh speaking people. I'm also from the Manajali tribe down in Boyezet. So I'd just like to say Jingari Yugambeh Jargon, Ya Jingari Manajali Jargon. So what I just said to you all in the local Yugambeh language is welcome to Yugambeh and Manajali country. Also would like to say Jingari Ann from Ghana.
Hello.
Jingari Norm and Sarah, who live and work on the Cubby Cubby lands. And we're all here today because we're speaking about arts front and the future and where we're about to go with it. So welcome, everybody, enjoy your time, and let's have a great day.
Hey. Thank you very much, Zach, and thanks for the welcome. We've got now 55 minutes, so it's going to be high energy, huge, enthusiastic, scope the future in 55 minutes. So there's just a few things I need to say to you. First of all, when you're speaking, and that goes for the people who are online as well, when you're speaking, all you need to do is say who you are and where you're from and whose country you live on. When not having everybody do an acknowledgement so that we can really keep rolling. And we've tested that out and everybody's pretty happy with that. Now look, this is a national project that runs for 4 years. We're at a significant part in that project. We've been tasked by the Australian government to try to develop a shared vision for the arts and culture in Australia that various political parties would sign up to. So seeking to find some kind of common vision for the future. Not that governments at various times wouldn't fund different things, but that we at least might have a big picture that we all share. And there are lots of themes that are associated with that. A very important theme is First Nations First, and another very important theme is arts and culture in rural and regional Australia. So this session and the ones we're doing this week are all part of a 4-year project that's going to have a huge pulling together at the end of next year. And you'll be able to follow online what happens and see where your input goes. What we've got for you are, well, a whole lot of new things. First of all, we're trying out new technology. We're trying to run a session with hundreds of people around the state who are online, and with 3 presenting groups who are almost all online, although Melissa's here with the CANS group as well. So we're trying to make the technology work. We're trying to learn how to connect with each other and stay really enthralled in what we've all got to say in the conversation with each other by being online. The information about the presenters will be up on the screen. So one of the things we're trying to do is not talk too much in here, so that it's not just a room-centric conversation. So gradually you'll see the information about the presenters come up just before they do their presentation. And then after their presentation, their contact details will be up. 3 presentations, at the end of which we're going to have a conversation, not a question and answer session with them. Their contact details are there. You'll be able to ask them questions later. But this will be, what struck you about that? What is it that you think in your community? What's your community like in 2030? And we're trying to take you to 2030 and then work backwards for what were the barriers that you had to kick out of the way in order to get to where you wanted to go. So we're trying to future orientate the whole conversation. All right. All right, so I'm going to put up the first, so you'll get the 3 presentations in a row. we'll put up the first one, and if we have any technical pictures, we'll just all take a deep breath and wait for a minute, and I'm confident that someone's going to fix it. All right, so are we going?
Yep. To Glenn.
Are we zooming?
Yep.
Are you wanting me, Anne? Sorry.
So
Zoom into Mackay.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, we're just trying to switch it across. Why is that?
We can hear you, Glenda.
Hello.
Can you start?
Just don't get you yet.
Displays. Not right.
Okay, because I'm ready to start whenever.
Yay.
Yay. Hello. So, yeah, I'll just launch into this. So we're coming from Mackay, which is the land on which we live, work and play, and is Uribra country. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you so much to Anne and the team, the Arts Front team, for actually inviting us here today. I'm going to launch into sharing my screen, hopefully. So forgive us while we get this going. I will be actually playing a video for you today, and that particular video is 5 minutes long, so I'll try not to take too long. We're not yet seeing it. That one and share. No. Okay. Sorry, technical hitches are happening already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, hopefully now you're seeing a video.
Yes.
Yes, all good. Not a video, sorry, a slide. So this is coming from a project called Provoking Change, and We Can is a group of educators, artists, researchers in Mackay who are working on a 2-year project. This, when this was put to me, I thought this would be wonderful to throw out to that group, and because it gives us a broader view than just mine. And the group are educators, artists, researchers, as I think I've said. We are actually working on a project called Provoking Change, so we've made that the focus of this particular video. We're exploring attitudes and perceptions of the arts. Razin has a key image, which is this particular one, which is about lifting our gaze. And that's really the focus of what we're trying to do beyond our own little silos. When we started conceptualizing the video, we thought about also Samuel Beckett's play or work called Play, which is a video-based work, and it's about 3 people in a purgatory state who are very much on about their own perspectives on their situation. They talk, but they don't communicate. They're stuck in a constant loop without change. So change is very much where we're coming from. As a basis for the video work you're about to see, we've also referenced Paul Gauguin's work, which loosely interpreted or translated is where have we been, where are we now, and where are we going? So without further ado, 2030 Provoking Change. This is our view for 2030, referencing where we've been and where we're at. From there. Oh, there. It's not good.
Where are we for songs? The village place in the arts and speak on it. Okay, good. It's regional Queensland. I want to see, how much of these songs for some culture.
That's not art. No, I only go to some plays. I'm not in the films. I don't do art and music.
I don't do art and music. Don't show me a video. That's what it's for. Where's the both gone? God's not asking me to go again. Fuck.
So you create arts in the common.
No way. Leave.
It's not every one of the religions and arts things are funny. Very deaf is amazing.
Yes, they are. The local arts is important, but we need to think about bigger. Let's look at let's do the progress.
I'm creating some contemporary. Let's check plants.
Right, digital art, contribution of terms.
I don't understand.
Virtual reality, not on my watch. That's not art.
I mean, during what happened, I'm afraid.
That's not art.
High art scene. It's different.
Creative industries, no money, footy. No one takes it seriously.
We don't have to be flying in too hard, too far away. It costs a fortune.
I can't charge for my work. People expect it for free. It's not legitimate work, don't they say? Frame is a killer. Quality art, go and see.
Mackay art scene. It's different. I don't take it seriously. Oscar, no way. What should you? Where is Mackay again? On the value art for Coastal. And then we will think we should take another over the book. Have we got Joe? Really? Where? Young boy? Really? Okay. I want to do an art degree. See, if it came here, I'd switch today. We used to do it. What fish bones? I'm still traditional art. We've always done it this way. Regional is good. We can't. There's a choosing opportunity down the rabbit hole.
Why can't they stay?
One day, I'm a contemporary artist. I'm doing it now, I'm staying in my solo. So I know how to do it. I'm going to do it that way. Hey, we got attractive names. People are listening. Richard Bell, I'm primitive.
That's been ages, it's not changed.
I know someone is listening. We've got positions.
It's our gaze.
I've played it lesson. Someone is listening. What is it going? Retro move, I say.
No more silos.
Remote perceptions.
Finally, we can be global innovators.
Respect. Flush those boundaries. Agents of change. Genuine collaboration, art, music, media, drama, dance, the arts.
No boundaries, no silos, respect.
International presence. Makers.
Art's a priority.
High art scene, it's different.
Equal funding, everyone is listening.
We're a creative collective. A creative precinct, interdisciplinarity, respect. World stage. Metro to us, our work to Metro. Barriers are broken.
Stage study creative arts. The future is real.
We can, we do.
We can, we do.
Okay. So I cut that a little bit short there because I know we're running out of time, but the credit list will be available later, I hope. I'm not sure whether that worked or not. If it didn't, I apologise, and we'll try and get a link out for later on. These are a bit of research. So that was all informed by research into academic research, but also social media and experience. And they're just a few quotes which have sat behind this about the metrocentric view in particular. I'm returning to Mackay after a long term away from regions, and it's very close to my heart what's going on with regional arts, and I really do want to provoke change. Thank you for listening. Okay.
That's great. Thanks very much, Mackay. Well done, Glenda. Thanks. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to Cairns. One person in Cairns and one person here on the ground.
I think it didn't because it was there.
Really a hologram. It's okay.
So you want to share your YouTube video?
Listen to music first.
So just to let you know, this is a collage of comments from the Arts Scholarship. We put ourselves into 2030 and pictured what our life was there and all the amazing things. And you will see that, interestingly enough, even all the hardware and visioning, Star Trek, and wanting to be on there, that at the end of the day, people still want to be good people. And I think that will cut through no matter what happens. And so we've got a case study you'll see, which is tropical arts that do Shakespeare text and Velvet, who's also online, my colleagues. So thank you, Velvet, for being here. They're about to measure this week. So, and at the end of the day, we believe, adding to your comment at the beginning, I believe also art saves lives, and that's a crucial element. And that's emotionally, economically, and environmentally, we are, of course, all of that. So. I think the other thing is that there's always people that will discover the arts. And so for me, having this conversation about what 2030 looks like was very challenging for people. It's a bit of a back to the future type of conversation and a head spin. And we got a bit excited about it. And we were really hopeful. So, yeah, thank you.
Great.
Activity and sustainability of the arts in Far North Queensland. The work of Arts Nexus has been an essential component in assisting the productivity and sustainability of the arts in Far North Queensland, working with the economic plans of the region and support the creative community to grow their business capabilities. We have established a cultural tourism destination hub that promotes the culture, arts and environmental groups and practitioners, a successful shop online and the promotions of hundreds of locally made products. The arts sector of Far North Queensland now represents all art forms. When Arts Nexus was pushed to the brink and not successful in securing operational funds, the arts sector was like a boat without a rudder, desperate for support and without a one-stop shop where they could go to have a conversation for support. We stayed on everyone's radar and became the place to go to. In 2030, Arts Nexus is still considered to be the model of engagement, and our programs are seen to be the most effective way to build capacity.
In regional settings, it can be challenging to engage with the national network, dedicate time to spend with other high-profile leaders to discuss global challenges, evaluate visionary solutions that will be appropriate to your local creative community. Where you are now, it seems to be very much about strongly advocating for the arts in this region.
Very much appreciated.
An umbrella kind of organisation that can help to support that kind of stuff is incredible, and such an amazing region, because it is a really diverse and interesting region.
And you've always been so supportive and encouraging of what we do, so that is so valuable for us too.
2030 will be a vibrant, energetic, amazing cultural place, and we will still be strong in our culture, true to our history, and hopeful for our future and our children. Thank you.
Everybody in Far North Queensland is trying to knock down the barriers to enjoying the arts with a uniquely inclusive production of a Shakespearean classic. Support services, volunteers and sign language interpreters are pitched in to help actors with disabilities experience the joy of performing. Charlie Kim reports.
The line from Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, but too often people with disabilities don't get the opportunity to shine, not here at Tropical Arts.
The first time I sort of saw it, everyone was equal here, and it was amazing.
In real life, you can't be saying much about yourself, it's a limit for on the stage. I just felt Powerful memory is actually in real life.
As the local deaf community rehearse and perform with support from Oslo interpreters. It's proof with some thought and a few tweaks, anyone can be involved. So everyone can enjoy the arts.
The whole thing about being human is a search for belonging and connecting. As you know, we just won the 2030 UNESCO Prize for Public Health and Participation. 11 years on since Avril Duck and myself first wrote the evaluation, the capacity to use storytelling as healing tool to include power of bringing people together, the beauty of having 60, 70 people in the community show some really beautiful common practices. We started using technology to communicate more clearly. We've got these amazing translated machines that are supporting the deaf to hear sound and particularly music. What can't we do with technology when employed in it a tool for connection and belonging? We've stopped weaponizing these extraordinary advances. Back in the early 2000s, Donna Haraway wrote the Cyborg Manifesto. The challenge went out, would you work with augmented humans? And I said, well, we've been working with people with hearing aids for years. Why wouldn't you? The need for real connection is huge. We now have a wealth of understanding around neuroscience and the capacity for the brain to change itself. Is to see the young people that we've been training up through our disability services actually really take their helm.
Could the minister say that Australia is at the forefront of blockchain implementation? No. Because running a hard out.
What we categorically know is that despite all technological advancements, the globalization of our systems and supply chains, blockchains and Bitcoin currency, people are people and will always want to connect, create and communicate.
If we're not all post-World War III in 2030, and that's a big if, what will we see?
Then audiences for two of the heritage forms of symphony, opera, ballet, like
people in regional cities rarely leave home due to traffic congestion and pollution. They seldom mix with neighbours, and the front door is only for parcel delivery. We are low carbon footprint community producers rather than consumers. Working from home has made this necessary, but highly productive and creative due to technological change, AI and the internet. 5 laws intended to stop it, facial recognition and surveillance, has become a side of the irrepressible flowering of resistance and democracy. With innovative protest signs, flashing solar powered banners, masks and costumes, a pageantry of colourful light shows and projections. These spectacles are directed at going viral for distribution across online communities and a global audience. The local and regional Queensland creativity, thus shared, becomes global.
As a valued contributor to the national agenda and participating in all levels of government consultations, Arts Nexus has a continual presence in all regional decisions. The key has been people working collegially and collaboratively to increase how the community values arts and culture.
Hey, Velvet, are you there? Velvet?
Yep, just a...
Yeah, I'm here.
To the online series of creative conversations produced by
I didn't hear any of that.
We just played your whole video. It was fantastic. Thanks for
thank
coming
you.
in. So Velvet and Melissa produced that video. But what I found really interesting out of both of them really is the whole business about connections, you know, being out of silos and breaking down walls and whatnot. And I thought it was a fantastic, fantastically positive view of 2030, really, given the current circumstances. And particularly from organisations that are not what you'd call well-funded in any way. So it's great. All right, we've got one to go. Robert.
Thank you, Miss Velvet.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you.
Haven't done much.
Robert McClellan and Pamela Croft are the presenters for this next step. Robert, you ready to go?
Yes, all ready. You can hear me?
We can. We'll just see you in a minute.
Right. Yigi Ngulam. Yigi mananjaling yulam, yigi mada maranji. Borum giningai, jangai gorangarang, daribalang, jangai.
Pamela, nai. Galan Leroy, Mithan, nay.
Ngayin, Bandabara, Jangi. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bundaberg region. We're coming from here in 2030. A lot of things have changed recently for First Nations artists with their arts works and what they've been producing. One of the most spectacular things that has really come out for our people is their own place to practice arts quite freely. And that's been with the arts and cultural hubs that have been set up in Bundaberg and all across the region. So this has offered our people a place to come and work together and connect and really make good arts works. Now this was really needed because in the past, a lot of common civic places that were available were intergenerationally associated with a negative experience that had been passed down from their parents, their grandparents and other families. Places like Customs House and certain art galleries, many places like that where our people were banned from going to at one stage. So these really weren't places where we could practice arts freely. And you know, to have our own spaces really enabled our artists to allow themselves to achieve that certain level of vulnerability that's involved with really letting yourself go to achieve the best outcomes in a comfortable space. So that's been probably one of the most amazing things about 2030. We've also had the opportunity of reclaiming and strengthening our culture through adaptability and using modern art modes to tell our old stories, new stories, and different stories. So this might come in the form of something like the Adobe Suite, or it might come in the form of iBooks, learning language through iBooks. So that's been a really pretty cool thing to see that extend even more here in 2030.
One of the things that we're also really promoting and our mob are really into is healing through the arts. So that's using creative activities to promote healing and to inspire. So after the generations of trauma, this is really fantastic now in 2013 that we're able to achieve feeling of well-being.
So we touched on the intergenerational trauma there, and that was one of the things that we're now all starting to understand. The broader community starting to understand what intergenerational trauma is among our people, and how the arts is now contributing toward that healing way. And one of the other things do you want to add to that?
Yeah. Oh no, that's great.
That's good.
You've done
And
well.
one of the other things there, which used to be back in 2019, there used to be all the RADIF grants were given to different communities. However, the IRADIF was an initiative only afforded to Aboriginal Shire councils. So this was able to give special consideration for Aboriginal developing artists to help them to apply for funds to get things happening in the community. Well, this is not just for those Aboriginal Shire councils now. Instead, this is statewide in 2030. So we're really seeing grassroots projects boosted as a result of the IRADIF. That's another exciting thing. And now this year, we've seen that we're strengthening our cultural identity within the First Nations communities, the broad communities all across Queensland. Within Bundaberg and our regions, we have the interconnectedness is now thriving. So not only Bundaberg, but out west of here, where often these communities are getting forgotten about, we are able to, you know, with technology now and the use of these cultural hubs, we've been able to have a connectedness for all of our people across there. So a lot more work is being done broadly. That is through the cultural hubs and the strong network that we've created, and also to reaching to the inland and rural communities and getting them involved in our arts projects. What has come out of the hubs as well is a dynamic, active network. So this is purely, given that our hubs are now, they have their own physical base. We have hubs in the major cities and we have outreach centres in the community. So that's the success behind that. And of course, that's mainstream. And then we go to First Nations engagement. Now it has been easily accessible through the Murray Art networks, and also to non-Indigenous collaborative partnerships now prevalent, and they are sustainable, which is the most important thing. We're moving on now to the broader community. The broader community now seem to be embracing First Nations arts and culture a lot more. That's one of the results of, as I said before, the dynamic active networks. They have been established. And again, just touching on, they have quite a bit of momentum.
Once again, there's the community healing and reconciliation. So we now are healing through an Indigenous or an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander-led cultural representation. Whereas before we were not really seen as the leaders in this area. Our community now has a greater understanding, and acknowledgement is more forthcoming than it used to be. And now there's a cultural and civic pride that is interconnected for all Australians who now, and particularly Queenslanders.
So we now move on to our children, our young people. We're inspiring that cultural responsiveness among them. And this is something really important, because this is our next generation who are taking over from the generation before. Now, language reclamation, well, a long time ago, back in 2019, many languages were only just starting to be at the cusp of being spoken and learnt. People were working with linguists and starting to create all these resources, but the broader community hadn't yet grasped it yet. Well, we've come a long way since then, and we have got, our languages really are thriving now. We've got the broader community communicating like this. First languages are taking the precedence in their LOTE classes now. Back in 2019, we were only piloting this with Education Queensland. So this has really been something that's stuck and come a long way. And the reclaimed content is quite broad and thorough. And we can see now that our trajectory is set for a new bilingual generation, which is going to be quite exciting.
And for the older generations and people, we never experienced or learned any language quite often. We didn't, well, we definitely didn't have the opportunities to learn. And we never often even heard language being spoken. It was, of course, in Torres Strait, there was language that was very strong, but for those of us who lived in the urban areas, it was very different. So it's fantastic now that elders are also able to talk their own languages and be confident about it and be great role models.
And of course, too, we've got our early adoption for language. So, of course, children learning language a lot earlier than I learned, and that only Pam might have heard before with her own language. So we've got children learning it, which is really the reason why we're accelerating this for a new bilingual generation. And we need to we're running out of time, but need to just conclude now, of course, with our elders, the engagement with our elders.
Yeah, older people and other Indigenous people of wisdom are the doctors and professors of our cultural knowledge, not just with, but for both ways, both with a Western and Aboriginal context of cultures. So now in 2030, that's been very acknowledged and utilised by all.
The last thing there is is the sharing and the telling of stories through many, many, many different art forms, which is one thing that, of course, is enriching our culture. And also, too, the perception there from the broader community now is taking that on, and that is what's making our culture and arts sustainable. So there's a little snapshot from 2030 and looking at how far we've come in 10 years. So thank you very much for listening. And Yina Galangil.
Thank you, you two. That was really great. So that's 3 stories from Queensland. Tomorrow we're going to do 3 from around the nation, Katanning, Darwin and Bendigo. And on Friday we're going to look at some international things and look at what the kind of connections are between these stories and how people see the next 10 years going and what it'll be like. So what we want to ask now is for anybody, the panel included with you, just to have some response. Like, what are you thinking about when you're thinking about 2030? Did these videos stimulate you into any new ideas? Where are your hopes and dreams going? Velvet, did you want to start?
Oh, I am so inspired, if not a little bit teary from Robert's work. I'm hoping that 2030, the capacity to not only use social enterprise, but also, as I guess many of us have said, the funding streams have opened up, that there is recognition that the arts and health are axiomatic. We're no longer having to provide constant evidence. I'm hoping that, you know, technology allows more collaboration. There is a fantastic theatre ensemble in Tasmania called Second Echo. I would love to be able to use technology to work with them and to have the rest of the world actually realise Cannes here. Even Queensland would be fantastic. It would be great for Brisbane to know that we're here. Yeah, I mean, those videos actually said it all. I really don't have much more to say. I'm sure there are other people who would like to have their voice heard.
That's great. Come on, who wants a voice in here? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jennifer, and I'm from Jungle Country. I work with Arts Council for that. And in 2030, I'll be a little older, a little more grateful that all levels of government really value the arts, and there's more understanding of how valuable the arts are in education as well as in community cohesion and community health.
My name's Mark. I'm from the Tablelands, and I'm in Doogalbarri Yidinji country. By 2030, we'll have an art strike. There will be no pictures in the newspapers. There will be no music on the radio. There will be no good journalism. We will show people that they take the arts for granted, and we will prove to them that they have to be creative themselves, because everybody's a creative being. They've become to recognise that it's part of everybody's life.
So I'm interested in what you think might be the barriers to achieving those dreams for the future. Like, what is it we have to get rid of in order to make this possible? Yep, over here.
My name's Leon in Gorong Country. I think perhaps a move away from a resource industry focus where we sell our resources and make money from resources might be a good start, and we can actually put a bit of energy into our arts communities.
I think one of the barriers that we have is the pervasive belief that artists will work for free or for low value, but also combating that within the artists themselves and having them value their own work at an industry standard, so that we can pull each other up to the same level of professionalism in arts practice.
Let's go around some of the panel members. Linda, Sam, got a view? Like, how are we going to achieve the dreams? What is it we have to kick out of the way?
For me, it's very much about collaboration. It's about actually hearing each other, listening to each other, working together, and also linking with the metro communities as well.
Anyone else? Robert, Pam?
We were just talking about that. I think a handful of the things to make this happen is going to rely on communication, consistency, and communication, and for different initiatives not to dwindle out as they may have in past, but good communication across regional to bring people together, because when we can have people come together with shared ideas, we then we have more weight, and we can command that kind of respect and authenticity when we are having the conversations regarding policy making, funding different grants, and how that sits in Parliament, because that's where a lot of our grant money's filtering down from too. So I think we need to come together and keep those. I think it's communication that will make us stronger together.
And possibly a lot of respect shown. Maybe we tip up the triangle, and the politicians need to have more respect for the community who are working towards the arts and cultural aspects, and to respect that brings in a whole lot of economical dollars that they don't seem to acknowledge.
If I can also add in there, it's about being brave enough to take risks as well. So I refer to some of the earlier presentations from today, like the Christchurch one, where they were willing to actually step out of where they'd been and move on, and to open themselves up to a bigger conversation.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Everything's currently funneling through our government decision makers as arbitrators of what really matters. And I think we saw an example today of a politician with a very short memory, and we are people, as Mark said, we need to remind them constantly. It feels like there's not much difference. It was only 10 years ago, not so long ago. So I don't feel like 2030 is really far enough away for us to really envision a bright future. But enough. We need more money. End of story. End of story.
Thank you. My name is Kirsty Veron. From Ablaze. I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know until my second Indigenous contract. Oh, okay. I've only been there for just over a year, so I'm still a newbie, having lived in various places. But sorry, cut that all short. I think that we need to find our ways through getting rid of government. I would love to see no state governments. Let's have efficient regional government and efficient national government. We're so overgoverned, we waste so much money paying politicians who don't understand what we're talking about. We need to be able to find the confidence to say who we are, what we are, and the value of what we do. What you were saying a minute ago about finding the value of that, I have been singing that song for 45 years, and it never goes away.
So our challenge though is, how are we going to see it differently? Isn't it? You know, so that something happens.
Two things I'd like to see in support of artists in the future. As we get business training for artists, so that we can develop sample practices with commercial rights of grants, government, and all that sort of and that we can value ourselves and ask for work. And the second thing, better mental health support for creators and artists, because what we do takes a toll, and I think that is something that's lacking in the sector at the moment, although it's slowly being addressed.
Hello, my name's Marita. I'm from Brisbane and I grew up in Gandry, Waka Waka country. I'm predominantly deaf, and in the future I'd like to see more theatre and performances which are accessible to people with hearing loss, such as having closed captions or automated interpreters. And that means that companies who are putting shows on need to allocate this in their budget. It's not an icing on the cake type thing, it's bread and butter type thing.
But one of the important things that we've been developing with this national vision is about using a rights-based framework. So to say, people have a right to be able to participate, and they have a right to be supported to participate, which means money. They have a right to earn a living from what they do. They have a right to get supported in the creative process and in their mental health. Like, so that we're not just dependent, so we need to take a stronger stand. Something that's not just about if you were really good people, you do more for us, but somehow trying to carve out some territory. And so we've been looking at all the international treaties that Australia has signed up to and say, what have you actually signed up to? And are you doing these things? In the main, no. Okay, so we're looking for new ways to say those things that you've been saying for 40 years. We have to find a new way to say it because people are used to hearing it. Like they know what we're going to say. So we have to use all our creativity, I think, to come in a different way and say that artists are demanding their rights and First Nations people are demanding their rights to culture, language, access, meeting together, all of the things that these people are talking about. That these are things that we have rights to, and we should be able to strike. And you know, to strike. All right, I've only got a couple of minutes left. I think for the beginning of a discussion this week, that is really interesting, and I'm looking forward to adding the perspective from people who come from other parts of Australia tomorrow to see if we can't build up a picture. We can have a depressing picture about it, or we can take a really strong picture and then somehow try and be realistic on the way. But we need to be able to say, we will break down silos. You know, that does get in the way of things happening. We will learn the whole question of respect and First Nations first and supporting those people, because not doing that does get in the way. We will make a stand about communities working together and making art together, about communities making art. And that is, making art in community is real art, not underwater basketball. It's not Mickey Mouse, it's real art, it's about people expressing their culture. All right, panellists, last words. I'm looking at you, Velvet, so off you go. Last word.
All right. So yes. And largely, you know, we will have the absolute scientific evidence that the arts and well-being are economically viable and that they save us lots and lots of money in preventative medicine. And I'd like to not think we'd have to strike, but by 2030, the penny's going to have dropped and we're living well and meaningful and very, very happy lives.
Thank you. Glenda and Sam.
Okay, Sam.
I think there's been a lot of really important and valid points. However, one thing that I did want to touch on just quickly was about the importance and growth within cross-disciplinary outcomes, and just getting those groups of people together who have different strengths and creating something that's quite hybrid and quite strong together. And I think that's a big key to the success of future.
Yeah, I see that as really important too. So totally endorsing what Sam just said. We tend to be silos within silos as well. So getting rid of those boundaries, as was suggested in our presentation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Robert and Pam.
I think, can you hear me? I think the final, just recapping on, again, I think the most important thing is together we are strong. So keeping that consistency and that communication open, and not forgetting about our family over West. I suppose to learning, I suppose our sort of perspective has been learning from ancient ways, understanding our past, understanding our present, and then working out what our future is going to look like. And I think there's a lot to be said from the cultural perspective that can you know, lead us forward. Our people have been sustainable for over 80,000 years. So when we think about future planning, there are a lot of lessons I suppose we can take from that. And we learn a lot from our language as well. So I think that's, and I hope too that in doing things those ways, that we can all start to develop our own sense of connection to the country, which we are part of, whether it be Bundaberg, Rocket, or wherever up the coast. That belonging, and you know, you to be able to be creative and vulnerable to do amazing things. How does that? Anything else?
And to be safe within that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feel safe.
I think I'd really like us to thank these amazing panellists. Thank you very much. So this is a little bit of a flavour. I know one of the panellists tomorrow is going to say there's no art on a dead planet, so there might be a few different things tomorrow. So please think about coming back. We'd love to have your brain helping us to, you know, see how the conversation goes. It's been really good. Thanks everyone for your contribution.
Our time tomorrow is.
That's the question.
Might be 11.
We're here, yeah.
And apologies, the
11.
yeah.
11 to 12 tomorrow morning.
And there was a technical problem with the stream going out, so we'll post the video from today's session and invite people to catch up online overnight for tomorrow.
And we'll put up all the information about the speakers and their contact details, so you'll be able to find all of that online if you want to. They've all given us their contact details, so if you want to talk to any of them, they're there. And yeah, is that it?
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to know? No? Great. Okay, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it.